I'm going to take a minute here just to, at the outset, to say a little bit about who U.S. High-Speed Rail is, a little bit what we do, then talk about project updates. There are 6 or 7 projects in various stages around the country, from planning to construction. Then talk a little bit about some of our priorities at the federal and the state level. And then the last section I'm calling Let's Texas. Let's Texas is a campaign that's being put on right now by the state of Texas to draw tourism into the state. And I think it's quite apropos for the last section, where I'm going to focus just on the opportunity here in Texas. And I think that that phrase makes perfect sense. So U.S. High-Speed Rail, we are the only advocacy organization in the U.S. focused entirely on high-speed rail. We were founded in 2009 by our current president, Andy Coons. During the Obama years, it got a little lean after that, as many of you know, and he became a thought leader and an expert in this area and kept support alive throughout those years until, of course, Biden was elected. Once that occurred and that opportunity presented itself, Andy went out, he hired Ezra, our political director, and myself, and for the last 3 or 4 years, we've been working to drive support on Capitol Hill and funding, and to get the members and the administration, whether it's Biden or now Trump, to understand the value of high-speed rail. So we have a coalition. Let me actually put this here. All right. So we have a coalition of 52 members, labor, industry, and project sponsors. So we cover the spectrum. We have people who have built high-speed rail all around the globe. On those corporate logos, I'm assuming everybody here knows somebody and one of those logos up on that screen. We have the best experts in the world to bring information and intel to members of Congress, to stakeholders, and to the Trump administration. So first, I'm going to talk now about the projects. There are 6 or 7 right now. They're in various stages of development, whether it's planning or construction. There are 2 that are under construction right now, Brightline West, going from Las Vegas into Los Angeles County, and California High-Speed Rail, which is eventually going to connect San Francisco with Los Angeles. Presently, it's work in the Central Valley from Merced down to Bakersfield. So Brightline West is the line that goes from Las Vegas into LA County, and it is the one that's favored by the Trump administration. Sean Duffy, a number of weeks back, came out, and while he was, of course, ragging on California high-speed rail, which is a model they do not like, he was fully supportive publicly of the Brightline West model, which is mostly private capital. In fairness, they're, of course, received right now $3 billion from the federal-state partnership, so they're not entirely private. But that is the model that the Trump administration likes. They have said publicly they want it to succeed. Right now, and just maybe 3 weeks ago, they had a private activity bond, and it was oversubscribed by about $1 billion. So Brightline West is doing pretty well in terms of its capital. They have right now a $500 million ask for the federal-state partnership, and that's for rolling stock. We are quite confident that the Trump administration is going to say yes, and one of the best things that does, it gives the Trump administration skin in the game. Right? That's in part what we need to do to be able to move this and other projects along, is get them to be invested in these projects. And they love this Brightline model, and for that reason, they're going to support it. And I think we're in pretty good footing. Brightline says, you know, their original goal was to be done by the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. That's a little ambitious, but what we are hearing is that they will be done in 2028 and taking tickets. That is going to be a game changer. They are going to begin heavy construction sometime this year. Sarah Waterston, the president, made that statement a couple weeks ago. And I think that this is, you know, it's a project that needs to succeed, and I think that it will. And it's going to get the proper kind of funding. And when people in America, I think this has happened all over the world, right? 26 nations have high-speed rail. Billions of people use it every year. And I think when Americans finally, in their own country, get on a high-speed train at 186 to 200 miles an hour and travel between 2 major city pairs like Las Vegas and Los Angeles, it's going to knock people on their ass. Right? But it is the thing that needs to happen. So we in this industry and the people that are part of our coalition know full well that we need to give as much support as we can to make sure that Brightline West gets built and starts taking tickets, because that will unleash. We were probably already past the tipping point in our estimation, but once people can actually get on that line and take tickets, that's going to be a game changer. So I'm going to move us see here. There we go. So these are some of the projects that are taking shape. Brightline we just talked about. The second one is California High-Speed Rail. And whatever you've heard, please just take a deep breath, okay? The project has a new CEO. Ian Chowdhury came in last fall, and he has a much, much clearer and stronger and better vision for how this project can succeed. And one thing to note is that a difference between, say, Dallas and Houston, which I'll talk about later, and Las Vegas, the Brightline West in LA County, when you compare that to California, those other first two projects are straight and they're flat. California is the most ambitious and most complex infrastructure project in North America right now. It is incredibly difficult to build. One of the reasons that it's taken a long time, and there are others which we'll talk about. But Brightline, the model is great because it's a straight line. It's easier to build. California is trickier. But Ian has come in. He has the backing of Governor Newsom. In fact, Ian has a long history at HNTB. He has built infrastructure projects around the globe. He's brought them in time and on budget. The governor, basically said, Ian, I want you to do this, and you have my backing. They are right now, as we speak, they are crafting a plan with a new vision for how to get this project built, not just in the Central Valley where it is from Merced to Bakersfield, but we're calling north to south into the San Francisco metropolitan area and down into the Los Angeles area. He understands that having that vision is critical to getting more public support behind it. And the second piece behind that is funding. Right now, California High-Speed Project gets their funding from the Cap and Trade Program, which is the GGRF, the Greenhouse Gases Reduction Fund. Polluters pay into this fund. Those dollars then go to environmental and green projects around the state. Right now, presently, the project gets 25% of those revenues, and that varies each year, which we'll talk about as a little bit of a problem, but it varies between $750 million and $1.25 billion each year that the project gets for that. And that's pretty good news, but the problem is it's not stable funding. It varies. You cannot bond out. You cannot raise private equity. You cannot get other capital to come in when you do not know what that amount is going to be each year. He understands that. He understands that it's worked all over the world. Spain is a perfect example. 18 years ago, they had 0 kilometers or miles of high-speed rail. The president said, we're going to build it. We're going to look at France and Germany and Italy, other places that are doing it, and we're going to set aside and allocate that money right up front to do it. And guess what? 17 years later, they have the second most high-speed rail miles in the world, 4,200 miles, second only to China, which has 26,000 miles. But that just shows what can be done in a country like Spain. When you have that political will right up front and you have that committed, stable funding, that's the way it gets done. That's the way it will get done in any place if you want it to be done efficiently and you want it to be done on time. Ian understands that the project in California has been beset by delays and other things. But one of the things they understand, in addition to the stable funding model and the committed dollar amount, is that we have to find other ways to make these kinds of projects go more quickly. There's a bill in California right now, SB 445. It's Senator Wiener from San Francisco. And one of the things that it does, it allows, if I'm in a project and I'm going through, and as a utility, and we need to move a cable, right now, that utility can cause delays that are months, if not years, to getting that project done. That's one of the problems with the project. That's one of the reasons it's come in fits and starts, because there's a lot of uncertainty for problems like that. SB 445 is going to help do the following. A permit is filed to get access to that property and move that cable. Once that permit is properly filed and that application is filed, excuse me, you have 60 days to complete it. If not, the lead agency can use the state guidelines and issue the permit. It's a bill that has, I've been working in Sacramento for a long time and have been talking to members and staff, and this is something that has huge support within the state. It's very, very likely to get passed, and it will go a long way with the stable funding in California to make that thing happen and make that project go. Next line is Cascadia, Vancouver to Seattle to Portland. This one is it's still in, it's kind of the mid-range planning stages, but it's a line that has they've done it right. They have built a lot of community support over time. It's backed by Microsoft, and they've got, they have done some very, very good planning with WashDOT. We know a number of their folks up there, and they're doing a very, very good job. Again, that is going to be crosses a border, right? There's other issues with that project, but it's going to get done, and imagine connecting those population centers. We also have a little weapon here. Mayor Keith Wilson of Portland was elected in November of 2024. He's been a part of our coalition, and one of the part of his platform for running for mayor of Portland was high-speed rail. It's going to be the terminus of this project, so we think we are building allies. They just got, I think they just got $50 million in the Corridor ID program. That was a grant that was made in December for that project. Next is Texas Central, right? Dallas to Houston. And for God's sakes, if there is a project in America that just begs to be built, and this is this is part of the triangle, it's Dallas to Houston. You are connecting two of the major population centers in America. You have a flat terrain, you have a median that you can build in, and now with the Supreme Court rulings and other things, I think there is a little bit more momentum. I know there's a lot of challenges in the ledge this year in Texas, but this is a line that just begs to be built between these two population centers. John Kleinheinz, the capital investor, is based in Fort Worth. He and his partners just bought out last few weeks or so. I don't know how long the deal was in place. The last of the Japanese investors in the Texas Rail project. It was $400 million that they bought out. So we're not quite sure what to make of this just yet, but what we do know is pretty interesting, and what we do know further is that someone who's invested a lot of private capital in that project, because I think that they see the similarities with Brightline West. Connecting these two population centers on a highway medium with a lot of flat land, those are much, much easier builds than the California build, which has to go tunnels, it has to go through mountains. That one's brutal. But this one, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in my last segment, but Texas, geez, this is a place that is ripe for high-speed rail to be used to actually make this economy just blow up big time. High Desert Corridor. This is a line that is a 54-mile line in Southern California. Think about California is going to come from San Francisco down the Central Valley into Los Angeles. Brightline West is going to come from Vegas into LA County. High Desert Corridor, that is a 54-mile line that will connect those two lines. That will enable the following: a one-seat ride from San Francisco all the way down, if you wanted to, into LA or back into Las Vegas. Either way, from LA or from San Francisco. So the High Desert Corridor is a critical element to what the governor of California and the authority there are calling the Southwest High-Speed Rail Network, combining that California line with the High Desert Corridor and then into Vegas. Now imagine, once that's done, that you can then build over to Phoenix. This has been discussed a lot, and then you can imagine going from there into Texas. So we've envisioned this Southwest High-Speed Rail Network to eventually go down and connect truly the entire Southwest. Chicago to St. Louis, okay? This seems like a no-brainer. Chicago has been a rail hub for generations, right? Their governor, we work with Governor Pritzker. We got them a $2.6 million award for the Illinois High-Speed Rail Commission to do a route study. There's been a lot of support for this over the years. It certainly makes sense. And one of the things I was thinking, has anybody seen the movie Bullet Train with Brad Pitt? Came out in 2022, okay? It's just a lot of mayhem on the movie, as you can imagine. But then I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool? Now Cubs and Cardinals fans, they can duke it out between these two cities on a bullet train. I mean, come on. What would be better than that? And it's going to happen. So, that, again, there's support for this. There's a lot of interest. We're also thinking up in Minneapolis, right? Minneapolis, and then going down to, I think, down to Madison, right? In other words, connecting that part of the Midwest well, we could eventually see that connecting into Chicago. So you can see that what's happening is that, I'll talk about Charlotte to Atlanta next, but we're seeing regions of high-speed rail that can be built up. The Southwest High-Speed Rail Network from California all the way down into Texas, up in the Midwest, Chicago, up into Minnesota and into Wisconsin, and then the Southeast Corridor. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit next. Atlanta to Charlotte. So in 2021, the FRA issued a final Tier 1 EIS and an ROD. And that was good news. It's stalled since then. It's been a little bit slow. It needs more grassroots support, and it needs a little more political will behind it. We think there is some. It certainly, again, is an area that makes sense. We've talked to NCDOT. Now they got a $500,000 corridor ID grant to do scope of work, and so I think that they are inching themselves to making this high speed eventually that route and make that doable. And that would be exciting too. That would be another region I think that also begs for that, particularly Atlanta into North Carolina. So what are some of the priorities that we're doing here at U.S. High Speed Rail? The top one is federal. At the federal level is permitting reform. We know that the Trump administration is going to be putting forth legislation that's going to do permitting reform, cutting red tape. That's a big thing, right? With energy projects. We have now been working with our Republican consultants, BGR, based in Washington. DOT Secretary Sean Duffy worked there after he left Congress in 2019. We are now gaining access to Republican offices. We have already shopped around this permitting reform, and the bill looks something like this. It's a 2-year shot clock on the EIS for all passenger rail. Again, like in California with SB 445, this is the kind of measure, that's the kind of thing that holds up these projects and makes them more costly and more inefficient, and therefore subject to all kinds of damage from the outside. So that's the Karen Hedlund talked a little bit about this last night, and one of the things that she mentioned, which we are going to be asking for as we're talking with people on Capitol Hill, is that all high-speed rail projects come under the authority of the Surface Transportation Board. Right now, it's only if they're interstate, so that's a problem. We want all of them to be involved, and because, like a lot of, I think there's probably 65, maybe 35 freight to passenger in this conference. As the freight people know, STB is pretty good, right? They get their environmental reviews, the EIS and the EAs, they get them done efficiently. So therefore, we get that benefit of having high-speed rail done at the STB. We also get federal preemption, right? Every kind of challenge that comes along has got to go through STB. That's a big deal, and that's a big time saver. And right now, we are finding favorable climate for this permitting reform. We've drafted the legislation. We've shopped it around to our Democratic allies on the T&I committee, other places in Congress, and quite frankly, they're thrilled with it. So we think that when we get out, we are now going to be sharing it with Republicans over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And we think that we are going to get a favorable response. If we could get permitting reform, if we get something like this done, if that's what we get out of the Trump administration, that would be a massive success. That's not all we're asking for, but that would be big. At the state level, we're focused on cap and trade in California. As I mentioned before, we are launching a campaign that I'm leading out in California. What's needed is to educate members of the legislature and members of the public what this project really means, what it can do for the state, and how. What are some of the tools we can give it? What are some of the changes we can make to take this vision that the new CEO Ian Chowdhury has and make this thing work? Again, we've got the SB 445. That's part of this. I think a campaign to put those two things, the stable funding, the guaranteed funding, with this permitting reform. Again, that's the thing that's going to make this thing fly. So quickly, let's Texas. Okay, I got to thank Caroline Mays and Jeff Davis of TxDOT yesterday. I had not met them or talked to them before then, but on pages 27 through 33 of their long presentation, which was fantastic, The data that they showed, it just makes the absolute case for that in this Texas triangle. I just hope to God that policymakers and stakeholders and elected officials are paying attention, because when you look at the number of people that are moving there, when you look at the economic development already within that triangle, wait till you unleash. Put this here. These are the kind of things that happen. 26 nations around the world have it. When you put in city pairs and you connect them, housing affordability changes. People can live well outside city centers, raise their family, but they can get into Dallas or Houston. Think about the tourism. Hey, if I'm Jerry Jones, I own the Cowboys, I want this to happen. Maybe I can expand my Cowboys fan base. Same thing with the pro sports team in Houston. So I think there's a real opportunity here in Texas. You know the old phrase, the eyes of the world are upon you. And I think that Texas right now makes the absolute best case in the U.S. for why this should be done in that triangle. Connect Dallas to Houston, to San Antonio and Austin, and it really is just it's gonna knock people on their ass. So I hope that we are gonna do some polling, working with TRA, and to build up some support for this session of the Texas Ledge. And we hope to provide as much support as we can to Peter and others here and other stakeholders to help make this happen, because quite frankly, this is the place that really needs to happen. And it'll happen big, like most things in Texas. You want to be at the vanguard? Build high-speed rail. You will be the envy of the United States if you do it. So thank you very much, and I'm more than happy to take questions. Thank you.